There's an increasing number of people who want to start their own business. In fact, 75% dream of starting their own business, but very few of them start. And you know what? I have a feeling that you are one of them. You're probably one of those people who is like me, binge watching videos on starting a side hustle, how to start a side hustle, which side hustles to start, and can you make that side hustle a full-time job? I was there. I get it. It can be scary. But I want to counter that with something that increasingly became a bigger concern and fear for me. And that was placing all of my financial stability in the hands of an employer. Now, I had a pretty solid job. My last job was that of a principal, but it was becoming an increasingly stressful job. And I was working evenings and weekends more and more, and it felt like I was working nonstop. And I didn't want to live that kind of life. But other people deal with having jobs where their employment is at risk. They are at risk of being laid off. In fact, I've had clients contact me in recent weeks because they've been laid off. I've had people contact me because their business was bought out by another business and they weren't a part of the package deal. And yeah, maybe you'll get a few weeks severance, but during that time, you have to try to find another job. And what if it doesn't happen in the amount of time you've been given with your severance package? I don't know about you, but I am becoming increasingly greedy about having control over my life. And maybe it's an age thing, but I'm not going to trust anybody else with my finances, with my schedule, with my work stress level. If I can control it, then I'm going to control it. So I am the encourager of side hustles. I am the encourager of multiple streams of income. I am the encourager of having a nice, healthy financial nest egg to protect you from things that you have no control over. So if you are one of those 75% of people who have been dreaming about starting your own business, then let's talk about it. Let's get that business planned out today so that you can start it as early as next week. Hi, I'm Michelle. Welcome back to Connect Collective, where we talk about living life intentionally by rediscovering who you are, what you want out of life, and how you're going to get it. And one of those ways to get out of life what you want is by leveraging a side hustle. Now, last week I did a video on how do you define or identify the perfect side hustle for you. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that video, I will link it right up here. And I encourage you to click on that, check it out first, and then jump right back over here so I can tell you how to plan that side hustle. I can almost guarantee you that many of the fears that you have about starting your own business would be completely alleviated if you just did some research and planning. But I understand, like it's difficult to plan a business if you've never started a business before. But it can be easy. I'm going to make it super simple today. I'm going to try to make this not a lengthy video. And in fact, I think that if you watch the video that I did last week in conjunction with this video, you could be set up to start your business next week. So I am going to use two fictitious companies that I created and walk you through the bare essentials of what you need to create a business plan for your dream business. Now, this is by no means a perfect business plan. If you do a search on business plans, you're going to see templates come up all over the place, and they roughly have the same sections in them. We are not going to complete every single section, and we're not going to complete them to the detail that you would do if you were doing a full-fledged big scale business. Like, I need to be able to take this puppy to the bank and get a business loan. That is not this kind of business plan, okay? This is just having a structure, a skeleton for your business so that you feel more confident about starting it. We're going to ask some simple questions, and you're going to answer those simple questions, and you're going to see that starting your own business is not that scary. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go through each of these sections here. I'm going to share on my screen a couple of businesses, and we're going to go through each section. And I'm going to explain to you why they are important to identify. So, of course, the very first thing is having a business name. Now, if you don't know what your business name is going to be, you don't have to fill that out right now. You can come back to it maybe at the very end of filling out all the other parts. Now, the two businesses that I have here, I created business names that had meaning to them. You can create a business name that has meaning to you personally, or that fits the vibe of the type of business that you're creating, or a combination. So for example, I have Fly Finds here for the reselling business, and the reselling business focuses on vintage clothing from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and the word fly meant mighty fine or cool or happening, whatever you want to say. So fly was the word in the late 80s, early 90s that people into vintage wear from the 80s and 90s would totally understand. And then for my landscaping and lawn care business, we have the yard barber. A barber is someone who does very detailed work. They do trimming, they do edging on someone's face. So in my mind, I saw someone who maybe has a nice manscaping with the beard and the mustache, maybe even like a handlebar mustache situation going on. And that is the person who is the yard barber. So it would make sense for this person to have a business with that name. But again, if you don't have your business name yet, just skip this part. Go on to the next one. The next part is your mission. Your mission is very important because it is your why. Why are you doing this thing? Why are you creating this business? Our mission statement's usually a sentence or two. It might be a very short paragraph, but like a very short, maybe 3 sentences, but it honestly should be 1 or 2 sentences. I do believe that you need to have a well-defined mission eventually, but just to get you started, I'm going to give you my Fly Finds mission statement here, where I said offering high-quality vintage clothing from the 70s, 80s, and 90s to 20 to 35-year-old customers to heighten their sense of style through quality, well-designed pieces for work and after hours. So it's very specific on the mission, but I underline what your mission might start out like. Maybe you don't know all those things yet. Maybe all you know is that you really love to thrift vintage clothing from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and you like the higher quality pieces, and you want to have customers for that. So it's just that you're offering high quality vintage clothing from the 70s, 80s, and 90s to customers. Maybe you don't have the rest defined yet. It's totally fine. Just fill out what you can for now. And then for that yard barber, the yard barber is providing high quality landscaping full service to local home owners. Maybe that's where it stops right there. Or maybe he gets a little bit clearer and says to improve curb appeal of homes in my local community. And let me tell you, community is really important right now. I see a return to what I'm going to call cottage industry businesses. If you can, even if it's an online business, if you can make it feel like a cottage industry, like this little small, you've got a business out of your little small cottage, people, that appeals to people in a big way. They want to connect with you. They want to know who they're buying clothes from. They want to know who is landscaping and completing lawn care for their lawn or for their neighborhood, right? And if they know you, you're building relationships there. And people are going to be more willing to trade dollars with somebody that they know and trust than someone that they don't know and they haven't built trust. So I want you to keep that in mind as you're developing your mission. Connect it to the person you will be serving. Next is, what is your business model? This is very simple, straightforward. I want you to think about it in terms of how are you conducting business. So for the reselling, it's going to be an online business platform, and the yard barber is the person who's doing in-person lawn care and landscape. And that's all you got to put down. Just keep it simple. Now, the language that I'm using in some of these is going to be a little bit different for the sections than what you would see in a traditional business plan. And that's because I don't want you getting overwhelmed with the language. So instead of talking about things like our target audience and avatars and all that jazzy stuff, we're just going to say, who are your customers? Who are your projected customers? Who do you think they're going to be? This is so important to detail. To see, you need to see who the person is that you're serving. And if you're not totally clear on it yet, it is fine. Put down who you think you're going to be serving or selling goods to. For instance, with fly finds, you may only know that it's going to be shoppers who are between 20 and 35 years old because that's who's buying the vintage wares right now. But then maybe later on, you define that a little more clearly. And you detail out that they're shopping for these secondhand vintage goods that are higher quality because they are eco-conscious and they are done with fast fashion. And you might drill down a little bit more that they specifically want this clothing for professional office wear and after hours socially. And for landscaping and lawn service, you might just start off by saying local customers or homeowners in my area, anyone who needs to have lawn service. But then you might detail it a little bit more later on, saying households that are $150,000 up in neighborhoods with HOAs or neighborhoods that are close to HOAs, because HOAs have their standards about what the lawn and landscape needs to look like, and oftentimes that bleeds into surrounding neighborhoods even when those neighborhoods don't have HOAs. Now, the next part I don't want you to get overly caught up in, and that is competition and demand. And I don't want you to get caught up in the competition part of it. I've mentioned in other videos, especially with online businesses, pretty much everything is saturated. There's not a lot of new frontiers to discover. But if you research the area that you're interested in starting a business, you'll find that the majority of people out there just don't do quality work. So your edge is that if you always provide the very best, then even though only a small percentage of people successfully do that line of work, you'll be in that small percentage because you're willing to go above and beyond. Now, when it comes to demand, a couple of things that I want you to think about that I've run into with people that I've worked with, businesses that I've worked with, is that people, when it comes to demand, they say, yeah, of course there's demand. They need what I'm going to provide. And when I ask, how do you know they need it? Then usually that person who has this business idea is because they will say, well, it's because I see a gap. It's like, but what research did you do? So I want you to look at it this way. It's not that you think they need it. It's that, do they want it? So if you have a service or a good that you want to provide, a service you want to provide, a good that you want to sell, you may think that the customer or the client needs it. But the larger question is, do they want it? There was someone that I coached a few years back, and I see this happen time and time again. I say that too many people have the if I build it, they will come mentality, and they start building this business and they invest a lot of money into a business and they haven't done proper market research. And when you're first getting started, you don't even need to do a ton of market research. You can learn as you're in the business, but you at least need to do some. And there was this person that I worked with briefly, and they had already purchased merchandise to sell. And this person had an idea of selling more conservative clothing to women who were her age, so women who were younger mothers. And she started this business because she saw women dressing more scantily, and she wanted to be a role model and show that a more conservative wear could still be fashionable and beautiful. But the problem was she had this great idea, but she purchased merchandise before she had a business plan. She didn't have a platform. She didn't identify her potential customers outside of they were someone like her, but she didn't know where they were, where she was going to market to them, or even if they wanted what she was selling. And so she had invested thousands of dollars into merchandise that just remained in a warehouse. And I just want to add one more thing here is that this is why within my parameters of developing a business, I don't want to have a lot of overhead costs. So I try to start businesses where I don't have a ton of inventory. Now, when I'm doing reselling, I have inventory, but I'm trying to get inventory that I can move out quickly. And if it doesn't move out quickly, I price it to a point where it's going to move out because I don't want stuff hanging around. But again, these are things that you will learn once you're in business. But don't overwhelm yourself. Start with a business that is not going to tax you financially. Now, with the yard barber, the demand that he identified was that there are no combination lawn care and landscaping businesses in his area, and he feels like he can kill two birds with one stone. That's enough of a definition for now for his business plan. Next, a little bit of what I was just talking about with reselling and the client that I discussed with you is what are your communication channels? Now, this language is a little bit different. You're going to see it differently in a legit business plan. It's going to be under marketing. But when it comes to marketing, people get so hung up on marketing and sales. I don't know anything about marketing and sales. You're dealing with people. If you are looking at a potential client or customer, they're just someone like you. So think about how you are going to communicate to that person. And usually we start businesses fulfilling a need that we personally had or doing something that we really enjoy. So you're trying to find someone who is similar to you. Now, that's not all the time, but it is pretty regularly that way. So when it comes to reselling to the age group that I described, 20 to 35, and looking for those vintage clothing pieces, I have to go where my potential customers live. And they live online. And more than likely, they live on TikTok and Instagram. So I'm not going to be on other platforms like Facebook and X or Threads. That's not where my business is best showcased. And the person who is running Fly Finds might want to have local channels as well. Maybe they go to markets and set up a little vintage clothing booth. But for right now, starting out, she's going to say that it's 100% online. And for the yard barber has to network locally and might choose to meet up with real estate agents, small business networking groups, connecting with other home services providers such as house cleaners and construction workers. And the yard barber might also want to create a following online using platforms such as Instagram, YouTube, maybe possibly TikTok as well. And when it comes to those channels that these two businesses are using, they're using them to educate, entertain, inspire, and most importantly, develop rapport. Next, hours of operations. Okay, you have to have a schedule. Your schedule can be super flexible, especially if you have a full-time job. If you've got a 9 to 5 and you're working this business into your extra hours, then you have to be very specific on when you're going to work and how you're going to efficiently use that time. Now, coming up very soon, I'm going to have a video on being productive with your time management tips. I have several to share with you, so make sure you're on the lookout for that video. So for Fly Finds, she's working 9 to 5. She only has evenings and weekends. And the maximum that she can invest in her business right now is 20 hours a week. And she's going to try to do at least 15 hours a week. I can tell you that when I was reselling and had a full-time job, I was working 1 to 2 hours in the evenings, and I really worked as much as possible on the weekends. And I also got up a little bit earlier in the mornings to prepare any items I had sold overnight. If I hadn't defined and written out my schedule, there is no way in the world I would have been able to do it. So make sure you get solid on your schedule. And the yard barber is saying that he is going to do 3 to 4 yards per weekend and maybe 1 or 2 during the week in the evenings. Now, what supplies and tools are you going to need to get yourself started? Again, I like to have businesses where it's not going to cost me a ton of money to get started. That way, if things don't work out for whatever reason, I haven't invested so much money that I'm taking a financial hit. And the same goes with startup costs. As you can see, both of these businesses are starting with free, as much free as possible. I've added a really important thing in the landscaping startup costs, which is insurance. And a business like that might also have to look at local licensure. But equipment starting out can be personal. And this is how you want to start a business. You start the business with what you have, or just buy a little bit. If I were reselling and I didn't have anything at all that I could resell, then I would only go out and purchase a few items and then list those and start selling them. And then with the income that I'm bringing in, I'll buy more inventory. And the same goes with landscaping. Start with what you have, and then as you bring in more money, then you can upgrade your equipment. But you don't go out and spend hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on equipment and then have a business that's in debt. To me, that is a big no-no. We are starting a business to alleviate stress. We are starting a business to build a financial nest egg, possibly leave a 9 to 5, and we don't want to do it under stressful circumstances. Now, goal setting. For the beginning, just focus on those short-term goals. Fly Finds is focusing on getting inventory listed. Now, as you can see in my startup costs, she can list 250 items for free. After that, each item is going to cost a few cents, and that can add up. But again, I did this as someone who doesn't really know anything about reselling online. What I know now is that you can take the money that you are making from those free 250 items that you've listed, and you can upgrade to a store that's going to cost you a little bit less than $30 a month. But if I was just starting out, I would list up to 250 and just keep on rotating that until I can have a nice healthy income. All the while, I'm learning more and more about reselling, and I'm implementing my new knowledge. So when you're reselling, you don't have control over the number of customers or clients you have. Yes, you can draw them in with the items that you're listing, but you don't own those customers. They belong to the platform. However, you don't have to go out and find the customers. They're provided to you by the platform. Meanwhile, the yard barber has to go out and find his clients. He has a plan to make that happen, and his goal, his short-term goal, is to find 10 established clients that are paying him on a monthly basis. And then finally, you need to figure out what your legal structure and business setup is going to be. In general, the two biggest ones that people are trying to decide between are sole proprietorship and an LLC. Now, I'm not going to provide you financial advice. I am not a CPA, but I can tell you what I have done in the past and what some of my clients have done. With reselling, a lot of people go with sole proprietorship. That is totally up to you. Personally, when I'm starting a business, I like to go with an LLC. It offers me more protections. Now, if I started a lawn care business, I would probably definitely go with an LLC. But again, you have to consult a CPA, do your own due diligence, and make the best decision for you. And that is a basic business plan using two different businesses. So do you think that you can use this outline to get you started in creating a business plan for your dream business? Why don't you go ahead and get started this weekend? Don't overthink it, my friend. Now, listen, I am not going to knock 9 to 5s. Not everyone is cut out to be their own boss full time. However, I believe that everyone should understand the basics of business and at least start a small business. And with the type of businesses that we're creating that have low to no overhead costs, low to no startup costs, if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul. You tried and you were able to decide whether or not it was for you. So please let me know. Are you one of those people who is dreaming every single day of starting your own business, but you just haven't started it yet? Tell me in the comments below. And do you think that this quick outline will help you get started? I encourage you to take this weekend and get your ideas out of your head, put them into this quick and simple business plan format. Look at whatever platforms you're thinking about using and just pick one. Pick that one thing that you want to start. Get started. You know, I just saw a quote by Cody Sanchez today, and she's the one that talks about doing boring businesses. And she said there are two things that keep you poor, and one is not taking risks, and the second one is taking risks that you don't understand. And I agree that taking risks that you don't understand can really put people into financial dire straits. However, don't allow fear to keep you from moving forward on something that you dream of doing, but make a plan. Use this format to help you. I hope that you found this video beneficial. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you're interested in this topic, similar topics, please click on the video that's showing on your screen now. And until next time, my friends, I am wishing you all peace, love, and harmony.